Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to our presentation today. Our topic of our webinar today is your environmental monitoring program hitting the mark? My name is Sarah Curran. I'm Marketing Communications Specialist with Eurofins Scientific Inc. And I'll be here just to facilitate our presentation, ask you guys some questions, and make sure everything runs smoothly. Before we get started, we have a few housekeeping items. The webinar is being recorded. Copies of the slides and the recording will be available to everyone who's registered, and it will be sent to you via email. It will also be online in the eurofinsus.com Food Resource Center. There will be time for question and answer after the presentation with our wonderful presenters. So the way that you ask your questions is by using either the question box in your GoToWebinar dashboard, or you can tweet your questions throughout the presentation at Eurofins using hashtag EMPCheckup. We'll be monitoring Twitter through the entire presentation, so if you have questions, comments, if you're encountering any issues, go ahead and tweet those at Eurofins or mention that in the comment section in your GoToWebinar dashboard, and we'll try to get that resolved for you. So before we get started, a little bit about Eurofins. Eurofins is driven by our mission to contribute to global health by offering the highest quality testing, training, auditing, and consulting services. We strive to listen to our customers and not simply meet, but exceed your expectations. Eurofins is a full-service provider for food safety services, including, but not limited to, microbiology and chemistry testing. We are your one-stop shop for both routine and specialized testing, auditing, training, consulting, and candid expert advice like this webinar. Our footprint is global with over 400 laboratories in 42 countries, and we have a portfolio of 150 analytical methods. So right now I'd like to introduce our wonderful presenters, Doug Marshall and John Kucoli. Doug Marshall is the Chief Scientific Officer with Eurofins Microbiology, and John Kucoli is the Director of BRC Americas. Before we get started, I'd like to warm up everybody with a polling question. So our first question of the day will be, are you currently certified? I'll give everyone a few seconds to respond. All right, we're at 70%. Just a few more seconds. Let everyone get their responses in. Okay, and I'll close that, and we can see everyone's results. So 68% of attendees said yes, I am certified, my location is certified, and 32% said no. So next up, we'll ask, are you satisfied with your current certification body? We'll give everyone just a few seconds to respond to that. Okay, and just a few more seconds to let everyone get their final responses in. Okay, and with that, I'll close the poll and demonstrate and share what our responses were. So it looks like 88% of you said yes. That's great news. And with that, I'm going to hand our presentation over to John Kucoli of BRC Americas to talk to you guys a little bit about EMPs and BRC. You got it, John?
I've got it. Can you see my screen, everyone? Excellent.
Yep.
I'm going to assume so unless I hear from Sarah. Thank you very much, Sarah. Great introduction, great start to things, and good morning to everyone. Good afternoon, depending where you are. John Kokoli. What I'm going to do is really have a quick touch on how BRC looks at environmental monitoring, how we assess it during the certification process, what that means to the sites that are certified to BRC and to sites that use BRC as part of their supply chain approval mechanism. So we're going to touch off on those two things and should be able to just give you a good impression of where BRC is taking the environmental monitoring program, especially with version 8 coming up. BRC has been around for a long time. We've been here for over 20 years. We are the leading GFSI recognized benchmarked program. We're the largest, we're the most rigorous, we're basically the standard of choice. And it's something that we've always maintained that position through strength of the program and by really being industry leading in where the expectations are. So if you go back within GFSI, even just a couple of years, there was really no expectation around, or minimal expectation around environmental monitoring. So what we did is, we had some in version 7, it was a lighter touch. Now with version 8, it's really going to come home to roost. And I'm going to touch on how we're going to, what we've got in the works for version 8 as far as that, because we really pride ourselves on being industry leading, being the first to introduce aspects, really showing the way in food safety, really understanding where things need to go and helping the industry become, simply become better. So, when you're talking about environmental monitoring program, and Doug's going to get into a lot of specific details about it, what the nuts and bolts of it, but from a certification, from an audit perspective, this is what we look at to a great extent. What's the intent of the program? How are you managing it? How have you designed it? And if you think about it, the intent of an environmental program is to find weakness. The intent of an environmental program is not to show that we have no pathogens. It's rare to find a facility that has zero risk of pathogens, certainly in a ready-to-eat facility. So we really want to see, is the intent of the program to hunt and destroy? That's the classic mechanism or mindset you have with an environmental program. We want to find it. If it's there, we're going to find it. We're going to keep changing and evolving our program to make sure we get it. Next step, once you've created that mindset and you've understood what the desired outcome of your environmental monitoring program is, you have to develop a sampling plan. It's not random, it's not routine, and you think of who knows where the dirty secrets are in the facility. It's people like sanitation, maintenance, operations, pre-op inspection people. They're the people that really know where the gunk is, where the problems are, where those hidden potential harborage points are. So you want to make sure that when you're developing your sampling plan, you're bringing all the available expertise within your facility to bear on where is the best place to look as an indicator of where our risk is. Not just food surface, not just random places, and certainly not places where we know it'll be clean. Those are almost of limited value, certainly in an ongoing environmental program. What are our target organisms? That's unique. You need to understand that these are the risks that are significant to our product. We may have a number of different target pathogens we look at. We may have only specific ones. We're not going to get it down into great detail. It's somewhere between, E. coli and stec, or specifically naming the E. coli's. There's a group that we want to be worried of. Indicator organisms and testing for those, very, very valuable, especially when you're building your program. Again, go back to sampling plan development. What you want to find are the hot spots. You don't build your sampling plan based on data from pathogen tests. You may build it based on data from an ATP swab. So we're going to know where the harborage points are. Where's the food? Where's the potential? Where's the risk? We may narrow that down with ATP type or generic swabbing, plating, and then we're going to target down on those organisms. So we may use different mechanisms to identify target organisms in their sampling plan. Test methodology, we want to make sure it's robust. We want to make sure it's recognized. We don't want to grow pathogens in our facility, so we're probably going to look to some expertise like Eurofins to be able to bring it outside to maintain that safety. What are we going to do when we find it? It's great to have a sampling plan. You have to assume at some point you're going to find something that's going to raise alarm bells. Better to have a corrective action program outlined rather than scramble at that point. That's all great. Two big things we have to make sure we do: ongoing data use. It's not about the results, it's about the data, the course of the data, the direction it's going. You know, getting no pathogens on one set of swabs for your environmental program is great. Getting no pathogens for 9 months in a row, we have to say that, wait a minute, maybe we're doing the wrong thing. Maybe we're not looking hard enough for the right places. So it's really about that review of the ongoing data, of trends, of what picture does it paint over time. That's more important than individual results. And then, of course, review. Remember, validation is what we do to prove it works. Verification to make sure it is working or it's being performed. Review is when we ask the question, are we doing the right thing? And again, this comes back to, geez, it's been 18 months. We haven't had any significant fines. We haven't had any issues. Maybe we need to take a look. Or our shelf life data is telling us we've got some weakness in environmental management, but our environmental program's not. You know, what are the triggers that come back into play to say we need to take another look at it? So what's the mindset? Design to find it. Absolutely. Make sure that you're targeting, the goal is we want to find pathogens. We want to find harborage points. We want to find potential areas for pathogens. This is not an end in itself. It's a way to improve everything, to improve our maintenance, our production, our in-process, the length of our production runs, our sanitation, our QA. This is giving us data to be able to manage everything else we do. Are our employees washing their hands properly? Are they maintaining the uniforms? Is our footwear policy appropriate? All of that is improved when we have a good, solid set of data from our environmental monitoring program. Remember, that seek and destroy mindset. Absolutely, we have to do. And don't forget about validation. Is this working? Are we? When you think about the design, there are some other things to keep in mind. Make sure that you're, when you're figuring out your sampling locations, it's basic experience. Get some outside information. Where are those hard to find spots? Where has someone gotten burned before? Make sure you're bringing in all those additional people. Maintenance, sanitation. Maintenance are great folks. They take stuff, don't forget, they take stuff apart all the time. They've seen what's inside, what's behind the covers, what's underneath. They're the ones with the flashlights and the tools, so they're going to tell you where the problems are and where to look. Make sure, as I said, you're looking for hotspots. Nice compliment is using ATP. If you're finding high hits on your ATP sampling or monitoring system, you now are pointing in a certain direction. Does that correspond with where your sampling locations are? Yes, we're good. No, we need to review our program and understand if our sampling programs are correct. Biggest case, biggest issue. When you start designing your program, use data from your worst case situation. What's the longest run? What's the worst time of the year? When is our sanitation the weakest? What's the hardest thing to clean up after? Where's the longest point of rest between sanitation finishing without sanitizing and then production starting? So what you can do is really do your routine cleanup, have an extended shutdown. If you've already got one planned over a holiday or over a long weekend, don't sanitize. Let stuff grow. Now do your sampling, your ATP, your plate, your general plate counts. Do a generic look to say, okay, what did sanitation leave behind that could be an issue if our sanitizing step is weak? You of course may need to clean. You probably want to clean and sanitize prior to starting up, but always consider worst case. If you design your system to work and to manage within worst case conditions, life is good because you're rarely going to hit those, and you know it's going to be safe. You'll be able to sleep well at night. Remember as well, those spelled right, challenge frequency and triggers. So I've got a program, well designed, well managed, it's validated, we verified that we're doing it. How long do you run that program, looking at your trends and your results before you go back and say, is this right? Is it good? Is it going to be every quarter, every 6 months, once a year? We're going to look at all the data and understand, are we doing the right thing? Is this program delivering what we really need it to deliver? And then what would be triggers? Shelf life changes, complaints about off spoilage, any spoilage indication. What in your particular production environment or with your product would be an indicator of slippage within your environmental management program? Because if you've got a monitoring program and things are happening that your monitoring program is not picking up, we have to go back to the drawing board and fix that. So again, this is basics, but we want to make sure we have an understanding. When we talk about testing, Yes, we're going to zone our operation. Finished product testing, we're going to be real careful about that. We're going to understand the ramifications of finding a positive finished product. Sometimes it's useful. We're going to zone things, food contact zones, post-process non-contact environment. Remember, where is it at risk? Our product is most at risk post-process, prior to being sealed in a package. That's where we really have to focus, but not 100%. We're also going to bring in those zone 3 areas, those non-exposed areas, where, you know, it might be a warehouse, might be a change room, might be things like that, where if it's present, our vectors will probably bring it in, but we can't necessarily find it in our zone 1 area or zone 2 area, so we're in our exposed area. So make sure that we've got a program that covers the entire operation, the entire facility. What we're tasting, species probably good, serotype probably not. Don't get too particular. If you spend all your time looking for 017H7 and you've got Listeria growing, you miss the mark. So I have a lot of faith in things like ATP and generic plate testing as indicators of loss of control. You know, if you start seeing numbers in those areas that are out of our typical, then we know maybe we got to look in those areas for we may have some issues within the pathogen realm. So keep an eye on that. And again, where do we look? Where do we test? That nice, shiny, flat, vertical food contact surface? Probably not. That's easy to clean. What we want to look for: food, moisture, other environmental conditions that are really going to support the growth of pathogens, because that's the key. Leaving one salmonella behind is generally not an issue. Leaving a salmonella behind that can grow and multiply and cause a pool, so that when we start up Monday morning or after a long weekend, we now run that pool through, that's where we have issues. Don't forget, a good environmental program is one that finds stuff. It's not pointing out problems, it's giving you opportunity to fix things before they become a problem. I guarantee in every facility, there are little environmental lapses, little events that pop up, and your routine characteristics of your product, your routine operation just minimizes the impact of that. What you want to do is turn those into, aha, here's another opportunity to eliminate a potential risk. So make sure as part of your program design, you have a full complement of reactions, corrective actions, corrections, preventative actions when something indicates there's an issue. Depending on the depth of the issue, you're going to correct it, absolutely. We're going to put corrective action in place to make sure it doesn't happen again to the best of our knowledge, but we're going to use that ongoing data to do root cause analysis. Wonderful, wonderful tool within the food industry to be able to really chase down causal effects of certain things. So I talked about review triggers. Every program you design, you know, you're going to validate that it works, you're going to have verification steps, you're going to have documents. So basically every control program, the last steps you should put in place are, when do we review this? How often do we come and just ask the question, is it working? Annual is always nice, it's easy to remember, can be scheduled, but you should also have specific triggers. So we should say, well, I'm going to review my environmental monitoring program every 18 months, every year, every 6 months, whatever works for you and your organization and the risks. I'll do that regardless. But should any of these other triggers indicate there's a problem, I'm going to jump back in and do an earlier review. So if I'm getting positives, that's good, but maybe we have to make sure that we're doing things right. If I get no results, you know, if honestly, if you're looking at a supplier or a site that you're auditing, and they've got 5 years worth of data with 0 fines on their environmental monitoring program, I can guarantee you they do not have a good program. You know, that should be a trigger. Now, how long can you go without a fine? Depends on your operation and what the risks are. Product failures, complaints, new science, new risks. We have to keep on top of those. And of course, any significant change to the operation of the facility, new products, new equipment, new process, especially things like construction within the facility walls, those are all, hey, we need to take a look at our environmental monitoring program. So what are we doing with food aid? Yes, it is coming out. I want to be clear about the dates though. Right now, as of today, it's posted on our website as a review for draft. So please take a look at our website. This is for you, and this is also for your supply chain. These are the ideas we've been asked to consider for it. We need to know what impact, positive and negative, it has on the industry, and we'd love your input. That's open until the end of the year. Other dates, it will be fully published August 2018. Audits will start against it February 2019. Very strict on those dates. So what is it? What is Food 8 looking at for environmental monitoring? The exact terminology is in there, but essentially a well-designed program. The auditor will focus on design considerations. Why did you choose these organisms? Why did you choose these test areas? Why did you choose this frequency? How did you come to these decisions? That's where the auditor is going to focus their time. We expect people to have an environmental monitoring program. That's easy. Anybody could tick that one off the list. Is it a good one? So how is it designed? What are the limits? What are the indicators? What are the triggers? And again, what are your review and how do you continually improve and challenge yourself? So it's not simply a checklist of, do you have an environmental program? Yes. Do you have sample locations? Yes. Anybody can do that. This is really about having a great program, which is, again, what BRC really prides themselves on. So not significant change for those of you who have an environmental monitoring program, but those of you who have an environmental monitoring program that's been ongoing for several years and don't have that information about how the heck was this designed, that's something you may need to revisit, perhaps a review of things. So fundamentals. I mean, it is simple. Doug's going to go into details from our perspective, fundamentals. Get the right team, get the right information, understand what you're looking for, understand your operation, bring the right people to the table. Design to find. Design to find, design to find. Keep it deliberate. We want this to get rid of, to root out potential risks. Focus area, post-process, exposed product, but we have to remember our plant is full of vectors. I don't care if they're shoes, uniforms, maintenance, tools, equipment, pallets. There are tons of vectors, and we want to understand what they can possibly be bringing into that high-risk area. Keep in mind, just last-minute warnings of this thing. No fines means maybe I would love to find a facility, and every now and then you do find a facility where it's just environmentally bang on. They have control. They have complete control. Chances are, if you're not finding anything, there's something odd. Remember that when I said you have to have a reaction, a corrective action or a deviation procedure, make sure it includes what do we do about the product that's potentially at risk? How do we assess that? The last thing you want to do is find on a product contact surface pathogen and then not react to protect potential product that's at risk. Prove each step. Make sure you're doing it right, make sure you're comfortable with it. And remember, if it's good now, if you have a fantastic sanitation program, nature will find a way to get around you. That's its job. Nature's way, microbial way, is to find a niche, find a way through, find something you haven't covered. That's their job. They do it well, we know that. So that flexibility and that ongoing continual improvement mindset is hugely important. So as I said, or as Sarah said, questions we're going to leave to the end. Please remember, type them in now, send them in now so Sarah can get them teed up for us and we can get things going. And with that, I am going to hand it over to Doug.
I'm going to interject here really quickly to ask everyone one more polling question.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'll let everything load up here really quick. So we have one more polling question before I hand it off to Doug. And thank you everyone who sent in feedback about those last two polling questions. They were kind of vague. We were asking about GFSI certification in general. So this time we'll try to make it more clear. Are you considering using GFSI certification to improve your brand protection beyond your current standards? Give everyone a few minutes to respond. And I'll let Doug get all queued up here. Just a few more seconds. Okay. Looks like responses have stopped coming in. So with that, I will close the poll and share our results. So it looks like 45% said yes, almost 30% said no, and over a quarter of attendees are currently in the process of improving their brand protection using a GFSI scheme. So with that, I will hand it over to Doug Marshall.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
No problem.
So hopefully everyone can see my slides and see my funny looking face. So I want to thank John.
Your slides, Doug.
You can't see my slides. Okay.
Doing show screen.
Well, clicking that on. Is that better?
Give it just a sec. I don't think we're able to see your slides, Doug. Oh, there we go. Perfect.
All right. Sorry for the slow connection. So I want to thank John for giving us BRC's perspective. Clearly, environmental monitoring is a component of a larger food safety plan, and how it fits into holding up the entire food safety programs that a manufacturer may have is obviously some of the fundamentals are good manufacturing practices, sanitary operating procedures, any kind of hazard analysis, as well as critical process controls that you have in your program, all are designed to make sure that the manufactured products are safe. And then environmental monitoring is a way to verify that these prior programs are actually working. So I just want to make sure you have a feeling for how that fits into the broader scheme of things. When you look at other preventative controls, there are training programs, there are written records. You need to validate, as John said, whether or not your control measures are working. And then you would do periodic verification. Oftentimes that involves testing, but not always. Certainly auditing programs are a great way to verify that a manufacturer's food safety program is working. And then food label review is a good one for potentially controlling unwanted allergens in your product or your process. Environmental monitoring then has the following components. It's a baseline sanitation program where you're really looking for, as John mentioned, finding these potential niches that can harbor microbes, and then making sure that your sanitation program eliminates those microbes before you start processing. There's a testing component because this is a way you can validate your program, but it's also a way to verify on a routine, regular basis whether or not these sanitation program is working. Then you take data from this monitoring and you evaluate whether the data you're getting is meeting your specifications for both indicators as well as potentially for allergens or for spoilage microorganisms or for pathogens. Once you've done this evaluation, then if you have anything that does not meet your specifications, you need to do a root cause analysis and do some corrective actions based on the results of that analysis. So what kinds of microbes are going to be your target in your environmental monitoring program? So I can simply say that all pathogens could potentially be a problem. And this picture is an open air drying system for red peppers. And you can just use your imagination and think about all the potential ways in which an environmental contaminant could potentially get on what could be a ready-to-eat product.